Hello, everybody. Alright, well, this time I actually am doing a top 10 list that you could say is interesting and useful and makes sense. You don't see that very often on my channel, do you? Yeah, have you ever had that movie that you seem to have really enjoyed a lot? Like, it's one of your favorites or whatnot, yet you can still remember that you first thought you were not going to enjoy that movie at all in any way, so you were originally going to plan to call it a not-so-good movie, but then you watch it and you love it? Okay, you pretty much just call it the movies that exceed our expectations. Well, I certainly have those too. There are a lot of movies out there that I hate, but there's also a lot of movies out there that I love. And there's movies out there that I love that I thought I was going to hate, or at least thought I wasn't going to enjoy so much. Regardless, that's why I'm doing a top 10 list today. I thought I'd share with you all some great movies of mine, some of my favorite movies ever, that I personally remember knowing that I wasn't thinking to be a big fan of before. These are like some of the favorites of mine that at first I thought weren't going to be so good, but then were so good. So yeah, remember, this is all from my list. So these are just all really great movies of mine ranked by which ones I love the most. And these are all movies that, again, I thought I wasn't going to enjoy, but I really did enjoy, and that's why they're here. So remember, my opinion, this is the list. It makes sense, I suppose. I mean, if you don't make sense, if you think it sucks, then I don't know what to tell you. So let's get started.
Ghost. You haven't seen me talk about Ghost yet. I did have to say a little bit about it a while ago. If you remember what I said about Ghost, then you'll know I really enjoyed this movie. But now let me tell you something. I first remember when I saw Ghost appear on Prime Video. I was wondering about Ghost. I never thought I would want to watch it. I was thinking, despite it having stars like Patrick Swayze or Demi Moore in it, I just didn't think I was going to get to it. I mean, I love Patrick Swayze. That's the reason I clicked on it, but I just still didn't think this would be my movie. I also will admit, if you can hate me if you want, but I wasn't a fan of the sexiness that they gave Demi Moore. Okay, hear me out. I know she's a sexy audience, and a lot of people like to credit her, but she just wasn't that hot to me. I apologize. So with those two keys out of the way, I just thought this movie was going to be a basic romance something that my mom would enjoy. Was it a basic romance? No, it wasn't. I was thinking the title Ghost would just be a random out of nowhere title with some stupid reason of it. But no, the Ghost title fits with what the movie's about. It's about Patrick Swayze getting shot and turned into a ghost who wants to tell his wife something, but she can't see him, so it's sad. I didn't know that was the main plot until I saw the film. And when I saw the film, it was great because it did have a great nonsense with that plot. It made for some pretty good moments. You also can't forget to mention Whoopi Goldberg's appearance. Now, when I saw Ghost, when I first clicked on Ghost, I didn't know Whoopi Goldberg was in this. I mean, I think I've been getting keys that she is in this movie, but I guess it just didn't come to me when I turned this on. When I saw her name in the casting credits, I didn't realize that she is in this movie. I wonder what role she plays. She's the comic relief of this film, like we all agree. And yes, it certainly is a fun movie, so believe me, I was not thinking Ghost would be cool, but it was. You probably should always trust Patrick Swayze with its films. I think Roadhouse is next. Hope you don't disappoint me with that film. Avatar. Well, this is actually one of those films that many people nowadays want to criticize, yet was still a huge hit back then. And yeah, with the criticism, I could imagine if I really hate this movie too. Because I first watched this movie at a time when it was still very popular. Say last year. Yeah, I actually first watched this movie last year. You see, wait, no, it wasn't last year. Hold on a minute. Look, I'm really trying. I don't script these videos. It was in 2019. I'll say that. I first watched this in 2019, and that was when people were criticizing it. And I was thinking that their criticism could be true. And I know this should be about what I first thought, but yeah, I first thought that I wasn't going to get into it. Thought I was just going to fall asleep through it all the way and not admire anything cool in it. Was I wrong? Yes, I was. There is something about Avatar that many people need to appreciate now. I know people complain it's just your basic CGI fest that can get boring and all. But to me, it really is something else. I mean, it really did do a lot. I mean, it's considered to be the highest grossing film ever. I mean, Avengers Endgame did take the number one spot. But believe it or not, here's something I gotta bring up. Avatar is still the highest grossing movie now after it released again. So, good job, Avatar. You're in the record. Looks like you and Endgame have some battling to do. Regardless, despite which movie is better to me, Avatar is still a really great movie that I could have imagined. I kind of just thought that, oh look, blue people, oh look, CGI, oh look, big weird worlds. I certainly am going to enjoy this, even though it's probably not going to be my type, it's just going to be stupid. It was certainly not stupid, alright, I'll tell you that. It's kind of like the 2001 A Space Odyssey of the 2000s, just mind-blowing. I know I should focus more. I guess I'm just not focusing on enough that people focus on, but come on, I can have my ways. You can't tell me I'm stupid for loving this movie still. Never gonna change my mind. Never. Rocky Balboa. Now here's a movie that many people agree with as to say it's exceeded their expectations. It's been exceeding everyone's expectations, including mine. When I first saw the trailer, I didn't see a trailer, no, I wasn't really alive. Well, I was alive, but I wasn't the right age at the time this came out. It's just I did see this movie when I was getting into the overall Rocky franchise. As I was getting into the franchise, I watched the first two Rocky films. Let's see what I got to. I got the first Rocky movie. That one was and will always be my favorite one, and is a great film. Rocky 2 is alright, I suppose. I mean, it didn't live up as much, but still worked. Rocky 3 worked better than Rocky 2, yet still was a standalone sequel. Rocky 4 kind of disappointed me, and same with Rocky 5. So this made me think that Rocky Balboa would just be lame and unacceptable, even with Sylvester Stallone's still appearance. I mean, I should have known it would have been a great movie. I was expecting bad, but I got great. This movie's actually a great. In fact, I might even say it's close to be second of the first Rocky movie. Yeah, I love this movie almost just as much as I loved the first Rocky film. That's how great I found this movie. I didn't think it would be that great. I just didn't think, since Rocky 4 and 5 were disappointing, that Balboa would be just as bad. I even thought it could be worse. Don't worry, it wasn't worse. It was better in so many ways. It's definitely the best out of all the Rocky sequels. I can't say it's the best out of the overall trilogy, but regardless, it's a great film. Did I say trilogy? Man, I really need to start scripting these. I might get to a script sometime. I don't know. A Quiet Place. Now, for those who have seen my channel a lot, you know that this is my all-time favorite horror film. And yes, I still agree. Now, my first expectations before watching the film, however, well, let me tell you, I did not care. I heard a lot of people around me say Quiet Place was a great film, but I was thinking, boo on them. They're just big horror fans who really want to appreciate these kind of ideas. Let me tell you something. A Quiet Place, when I knew the title, I was wondering, why is it called that? And I learned the movie's actually just about people having to stay silent through a world where monsters can attack them if they talk. Now that alone kind of got me off guard. I just did not think I was going to think of a movie like that if there would not only be barely any dialogue, but if there was not going to be any creativity coming from it. It just sounded like one of those generic dumb horror stories. Was it a generically dumb horror story? Of course not. It was a great horror story. It actually was scary. In fact, I'll even say the fact that the entire film is silent just makes the movie scarier. Kinda wish I saw this in theaters. That would have been a real scariness. By the time I was in theaters, I was 12, so I probably wouldn't have been allowed to see this flick. I don't know. Either way, this really what did surprise me. Not only with how scary it was, but with how it actually became my favorite horror movie ever. I don't know which one could top it. If there's ever a movie that can have this much build up and suspense with quietness through, I can agree. I mean, we're getting a sequel to this, and I don't know. Rather, even if it is better, whatever it's like, if it's better or worse, A Quiet Place is certainly always stands as my favorite horror film of all time, which I wasn't thinking would be. Ready Player One. Alright, well, instead of seeing A Quiet Place, Dad took me to see Ready Player One instead. And when I was about to watch this movie, I was thinking, am I really thinking about watching this? Do I really want to do this? I mean, not that I hate the premise. The premise is great. I get it. I found it pretty interesting. It's just, I felt like this was one of those films that just isn't as hypeful yet, so that I could pretty much fall asleep to. Because at the time, I was really looking at hypeful films. Like, this was the year I was getting ready to see Infinity War, or Solo, or Incredibles 2, or whatnot. But when I see other random films like this, I just wonder what I could get out of it. And for this one, I was thinking I wouldn't get much. I mean, I found it epic in all the trailers, but could you imagine how unepic it would be overall? Nah, man, that was great. It was perfect. A lot of people have complained about this movie not being their expectations. In fact, people call this a disappointment. Well, I call it the exact opposite. A great film. It really did surprise me. It's a great crossover. People complain, it's not enough crossover. Look, this isn't a big crossover. It's just supposed to take as many popular icons of Amblin Entertainment and Warner Bros. As possible. I don't see why people need to complain so much. I mean, if you read the book, I never read the book, but either way, this movie did surprise me. It wasn't boring and out of nowhere touch. It was perfect. It was well paced. It actually had a great story. And I honestly really admired what it was doing. I mean, I don't care what you could say. You could say this is the stupidest idea ever. I think it's one of the best ideas ever. Do not at me. It's really, really great of a film. And I'm sure more and more people who watch my channel could possibly build up to love it. But if not, I guess I'm just going to be stuck in that party for a while. Titanic. Another love story of a grossing. This certainly has a lot of people's intentions. Now, in fact, more people want to criticize it in some way. Well, here's what I have to say. What to criticize? When I was about to watch Titanic, it was something else. I was not doing this. In fact, the only reason I was watching Titanic was because I just wanted to get into the romance moment. It was Valentine's Day, and I thought, well, since everyone else is celebrating Valentine's Day, I might well find a fun way to celebrate it. So I decided just to turn on Titanic. Now, how did it go? Well, at first, before the movie fully started, in fact, during the first 1 minute or whatnot, I was already assuming this would be boring and stupid. And so then I was thinking I just could sleep through it and it might be a good thing for me. But no, I didn't sleep through it. In fact, I was able to sit through it more. Because this Titanic story is not your average ordinary love story. There is something about it. If you know already, it's obvious. Yeah, it's an obvious story. It's the classic tale of how the Titanic sunk and whatnot. The only big difference they have is the 2 stars of a romance. They just throw some new made up romance into a true story, and that alone, in my opinion, is pretty perfect and quality content. So I appreciate what this movie did. You can be as redundant about it as you want. I mean, I'm sure there's many people out there who think this idea doesn't work. But I think it works perfectly. I mean, I was thinking at first it wouldn't work. I was just thinking, oh, Titanic sinks, boo-hoo, I should have to deal with these two. I mean, at least they're still kissing. No, something big happened in this movie. I normally wouldn't want to spoil it, and I'm not going to spoil it. It's just, I always bring up spoilers. I think it's time for me to stop doing that. I was a spoiler guy in my older days of YouTube. I was a disturbance to many people. I think I'm gonna lay off the spoilers for a while. So yeah, I'm not telling you the deaths and tragedies that happen in Titanic. You just know the classic Titanic sinking story and cross with the romance. That's certainly something I didn't think I was going to enjoy. Inside Out. Oh, Pixar. They always make great movies. Yeah, I don't know why I would not want to enjoy a Pixar film. I freaking love Pixar. They made Toy Story, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E. They made pretty much every great animated movie out there. Regardless, though, when I first heard about Inside Out, I was not thinking much. I mean, I will admit I was still into the new Pixar content at the time, but when I heard the concept for Inside Out, I was thinking on one hand it could be a good idea, but then I was still thinking before watching the movie, this could be ruined by many ideas. Yeah, I was imagining all the ways they could ruin the fun story of the imagines of what goes on in heads. I know Pixar's can be hated when it comes to their story, but to me, when I was thinking this would be a new upgrade, a story that just seems to look creative on paper, but when actually watching the movie, you will know how badly it was paced and how awful it's used. And man, oh man, was I wrong. This story really does do a good job telling itself. This was really a much better movie. One other thing I was scared to think about is how childish it would be. Pixar has been through their childhood dreams. It brings childhood to life. I mean, I'm certainly a Pixar geek. I grew up with it a lot. But I was thinking this one would just be way, way too childish to the point where even Toy Story can laugh at it. Nah, man, nah. Toy Story still stay in the corner. You're fine, but no. Inside Out is not that childish. It does take big directions because there are very big emotional moments in this movie. I didn't think I would see. I thought this would just be stupid. I thought all the emotional moments were not very emotional. Like, oh no, I dropped a penny. That's the saddest moment in history since Titanic. Rather than that, no, Inside Out really did tell a great story, and it is by far one of my favorite Pixar flicks ever, so thank you, Pixar. I probably should never doubt you again. Hopefully. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why would I not think of this to be a great film at first? Well, let me tell you why. There's this one person that kind of overhyped it for me. My dad. I don't want to talk too much about my dad. I mean, he's not part of YouTube. You haven't really seen him on here. But I just want to tell this story that my dad was overhyping this movie a lot. While I was still like 7 and 6, he was trying to make me watch Star Wars movies. And I really wasn't the proper age to continue. I was just busy collecting my Clone Wars merch and whatnot. But then he decided, while showing me the Star Wars movies, he decided to start showing me the Indiana Jones movies. So he showed me Raiders of the Lost Ark. Never got to it, and I'm still not curious of what I saw as a kid. It's just, when I was about to watch it for the first time in full sight, did I really think I would love it? I thought since my dad was overhyping it too much, and the fact that he said all the adventure and whatnot, I just did not think it would be my story. I thought he was going to take it too much as his story and not get enough from it. Well, no, I got a lot from it, actually, and believe me, why would I want to hate it? It's an iconic movie. It's an icon. I didn't know it was that much of an icon, actually. I mean, I know the overall franchise was a huge icon, but I did not know how much of an icon this one specific film was. It's a huge hit. It certainly did do a great job with itself, so I really don't think I would ever see the day where I got to say, good job, Indiana Jones. You did a good job on this movie. But you still did a horrible job on the sequels. Yeah, I do not care for the sequels still. Every Indiana Jones sequel is bad. I heard there's a 5th one coming, and if it does come, I automatically give it an F. Even without watching it, I'm that cruel. Jaws. This is another film you could be shocked to hear if I would not have thought it would be that great. But this is another film my dad was overhyping. I was very young at the time I heard about Jaws. I kept hearing, I know the overall idea of Jaws for a while, and yeah, I definitely took that in. But I never thought watching the actual film would be an enjoyment. I just thought it would be a disgrace to me. I mean, why would it be a disgrace? This is another icon. I knew it was an iconic film overall to begin with. In fact, honestly, I could have expected great from it. But you know, I was just expecting the overall one movie to suck much, and for Jaws to only be popular for the poster and the theme and the toys. Which doesn't make sense. That could indicate for a great movie, but I don't know if I would have said it was a great movie. I just seem to feel less from it. Like, I've heard people say the Jaws movie's getting old. The effects are lame compared to today's. That didn't help much. Oh no, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, so what am I gonna get out of it? I don't know, I just thought maybe a shark scaring me to go in the water would be bland and overhyped so much to the point where it's probably not going to be the case. It was the case. And that's the problem with this movie. My dad overhyped it. A lot of other people overhyped it. I don't know what I was thinking about listening to them. I just should leave them alone and enjoy this movie myself. If there's another Jaws fan out there who wants to talk to me, I don't want to talk to them. They just overhype too much. Like, seriously. Get a hold of yourself. The Avengers. The Avengers. Everybody loves the Avengers. Why was I thinking of not enjoying them? Well, this is kind of like the X-Men situation. All right, it's story time. This is gonna be a long story, actually. It was, it was in 2013. Well, it was a while before that. It was the Marvel Comics. When I was very, very young, I grew up with Marvel Comics. However, I wasn't to the Marvel Comics as much when it comes to what specific character to root for, seeing how I knew there were so many characters and whatnot. So I decided to focus on one specific character to love. And out of all the characters I've looked at, the one I grew up with was Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man. He's the icon. I grew up with Spider-Man. I got into him. I was doing a lot with him. I was pretty much just calling Marvel the Spider-Man franchise. So when I heard about other Marvel movies, I wasn't impressed. Until 2015, however. In 2015, I kept hearing about more Avengers stuff, like because of the sequel, Age of Ultron, coming out, which, by the way, I still don't like. But then I also heard about Ant-Man releasing, and I heard there was more. That's when I realized that Marvel is much bigger than I thought, and that I really should get into it more. So that's when I decided to watch The Avengers. And let me tell you, I am not just a Spider-Man fan anymore. I am a fan of the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Comics in general. Everything about Marvel impresses me. Well, so much of Marvel impresses me. And this movie definitely can prove all of it. Not only did it inspire an incredible franchise, but it really inspired me. I don't know. I just don't know if the Avengers could be my team. I love Iron Man. I appreciate the abilities of Hulk, Captain America, and whatnot. But would I really think I would want to enjoy their movies as much as I enjoy the Spider-Man movies or whatnot? Well, I'm able to now. I can watch any Marvel movie now. Believe me. Any Marvel movie, any Marvel show that comes out is a watch for me. It's honestly my favorite movie franchise ever. Star Wars, you're my favorite franchise, but movie franchise in general, Marvel. Avengers was great, and it always will be. Age of Ultron still sucks, but this movie has surprised me, and I do not want to criticize them at all, ever. I just have one more thing to say. Avengers, us.
You knew what I was gonna say, right? I hated that movie so much. Regardless, thank you so much for watching The Avengers. I don't know, I just came in my mind. Regardless, every movie you've seen on this list is a great one. I don't know how many more movies I'll watch and I'll enjoy, but if I have more favorites, I will share them eventually, for sure. You just have to wait for a specific top 10 list where you will see that movie, because I'm not going to be doing private reviews anymore. I know you want me to, but I don't care. It's boring. I want to do top 10s. My thing. I'm getting addicted to it. I feel like my entire life's a top 10. Anybody want me to do a list of top 10 craziest things in my life? Because I could do that. I don't care. I'll do a top 10 about anything for me. Top 10 reasons I should probably quit YouTube. That's a good one. Keep that in mind. Let's see, top 10 reasons I shouldn't go to school. Keep that good. That's good.